Okay. We got section 5.2, sum and difference identities. And you're going to need to memorize these, or if you have a really nice teacher, they'll let you write them down. And you got to also access prior knowledge of your 45-degree angles of sine, cosine, and tangent, your 30-degree angles of sine, cosine, and tangent, and your 60 degrees of sine, cosine, and tangent. Okay, you're going to have to access all of those as well. Okay, so let's start here. Let's see here. We are going to do the sine of 15 degrees, and that is the sine of 45 degrees minus 30 degrees. Awesome. Okay, so how do we do that? We're going to use this formula right here, the difference formula. Okay, and you probably know the sine of 45 degrees is radical 2 over 2. And by the way, we need to label A and B real quick. I probably should do that each time. A will be the first angle and B will be the second, so it won't be hard to follow, but just to make sure you got it. What's the sine of 45 degrees? That is radical 2 over 2. And again, I'm using this formula right here where that arrow is, okay? And the cosine of B, what's the cosine of 30? There's a 30-degree angle, and the x is long there, and that's radical 3 over 2. So times a dot there, radical 3 over 2. And then minus the cosine of A, which is still radical 2 over 2, times the sine of B, which is 1/2. And when you're going to get radical 6 minus radical 2 over 4. And you are going to see that combination of radical 6, radical 2, and 4 in the denominator constantly in these answers, okay? So that is 1A. All right, next let's try 1B, which is the cosine of negative 15 degrees. All right, no problem. I'm going to start all the way to the left every time. And that's going to be the cosine of 30 minus 45. And again, I'll be labeling A and B. It's really obvious, but I'm still going to do it. A and B, okay? And what formula are we using? We're using a difference formula. And I'm going to circle that right here. That's the one we're going to be using. So it's going to be, what's the cosine of 30? We just got done doing that. So the cosine of 30, if you're not sure, draw it out again. Wait, that's the x, that's the long one. Okay, so that's going to be radical 3 over 2. Okay, and you're going to multiply that by the cosine of B, which is radical 2 over 2. All your 45s are real easy. Plus the sine of A, which is 1/2. Okay. Times the sine of B, which is radical 2 over 2. And again, you're going to get radical 6. This time plus radical 2 over 4, okay? And that, by the way, you might consider always checking your answers by simply typing into the equation, what is the cosine of negative 15 degrees? And you're going to get 0.9659. And then what you could do is just verify this by throwing that in your calculator to see if you get the same answer. That's really a great way to check. Okay, so that's something you could do as well. And I'll be putting those up from now on. Okay, now, next one is tangent. Tangents are very, very time, there's a lot of time involved here. All right, so tangent of 45. I think we know that's going to be the tangent of 45 plus 30. No problem, okay? So we're going to label A and B. I know it's obvious, but I'm still going to do it. There's A, there's B. All right. We know the tangents of all the 45s are 1, because that's when the legs are the same on an isosceles triangle. And then we know that the tangent of B is radical 3 over 3. We've done that a lot. If you don't know that, you're going to have an extra step by having to go back to the unit circle, and that's going to cost you a little bit more time. And the formula that we're using is, of course, this one right here that I've circled in red. All right. So I'm going to start all the way to the left once again, so you see it. All right. So this one is going to be, we got the tangent of A, which is 1, plus the tangent of B, which is radical 3 over 3. And I'm going to use this symbol divided by instead of the denominator line. I'm going to use divided by, okay? Find this a little bit easier. 1 minus, and again, the tangent of A is 1. The tangent of B is radical 3 over 3, okay? So what you've got is you got what's called nestled fractions, fractions within fractions, kind of a pain. So I think it would be best to look at this as 1 as 3 over 3. And that's going to give you 3 plus radical 3 over 3 divided by, and again, let's look at this 1 as 3 over 3. So then you have divided by 3 minus radical 3 over 3. So put an arrow where we're going next. This is, again, it'll take up a lot of paper. 3 plus radical 3 over 3 times 3 over 3 minus radical 3. Cross cancel those. And you have 3 plus radical 3 over 3 minus radical 3. Now, math education's changed slightly. You know, a lot of people would want to take out the radical in the denominator by multiplying by the conjugates that you learned in Algebra 2. I'm just going to leave it there. I'm going to let us stop there at this point. So, and by the way, if you wanted to verify the answer is around 3.73. Just to give you a sense of what the answer would be. If you want to type in the tangent of 75, you'll get that. And then if you want to work this part out on your calculator, you get the same answer. It's a great way to check your answer. Okay, so there's A, B, and C. And you get the hang of it as we go here. All right, D, E, and F, I'm going to still work in the same space. I'm going to do D right now, but I'm going to work in the same spot. Okay, so the D is the tangent of negative 165. Okay, I'm sorry, the sine of negative 165. So I'm going to start up here. So it's going to be the sine of negative 45 degrees minus 120. Okay. So that does make negative 165, and I'm going to use a difference one, okay? So I'm going to use a difference one, which will be, let's see here, sine, right here. Now, if you wanted to do negative 45 plus negative 120 and use a sum one, it'll come out the same answer. Okay, so I may have to do a couple quick drawings on this. So negative 45 degrees is down here. Okay. Now, this isn't negative 120, it's minus 120. So 120 is up here. Okay. That's where 120 is. Just to give you a sense of that, okay? So I'm going to label it real quick. This is radical 3 over 2. That's a half. And I know my signs are radical 2 over 2 and negative radical 2 over 2. Okay, a lot of setup. All right, so here we go. With that formula right here where the arrow is, the sine of A, and I better label A and B again, even though I know you know this is A, this is B. Okay, so we got the sine of A. Well, what is the sine of negative 45 degrees? The sine is the y. That's negative radical 2 over 2, right? Times the cosine of B. And the cosine is the x. And I forgot to label that as negative. Times negative a half, okay? Minus the cosine of A, which is the x. That's radical 2 over 2. Oh, I better put parentheses around all these. Okay. Times the sine of b. And the sine of b is the y radical 3 over 2. All right. So we got a negative times a negative is a positive. So we got, what do we got? Radical 2 over 4. I know they're both going to be 4 on the bottom. And this is going to be negative radical 6. We have radical 2 minus radical 6 over 4. Okay, that we're going to leave it just like that. By the way, that answer, if you do it, is negative 0.2588. Okay, and again, I recommend you just throwing in the sine of 15 degrees and circling that on your calculator, and you'll get the decimal, and then check the exact answer in decimal form, and you can check your own answer. It's kind of nice. Okay, so that's D. E's coming next. Okay, cosine of 165. So I'm going to write right next to it. What do we got for the cosine of 165? That's I got to think of it in terms of angles that are 30, 45, and 60 in terms of reference angles. Cosine of 45 degrees plus 120. Okay. All right. So let me draw these real quick. First of all, I better label A and B. I've been doing that the whole time. Let's keep doing it. Here's A. Here's B. Okay. So A, 45-degree angle. Those are great. Okay. We know those are both radical 2 over 2 for both of them. Okay. And then B is 120. Boom, we're up here. Okay, we're at 120. And that's radical 3 over 2 for the y and a half for the x. Okay. And again, that's all unit circle stuff. And this is a sum formula, and it's cosine. So I'm going to circle the one I'm using right there. Okay. All right. So now that I got all set up, I'll go back to my, I'm going to go to green. I'm going to go to the green, see what happens here. So I'm going to start right here. Cosine of 45 degrees. Okay. So I need to go cosine A, cosine B. Cosine of 45 is radical 2 over 2 times the cosine of B, which is the x, which is right there, times 1/2, right? Minus the sine of A, which is still radical 2 over 2, times the sine of B, which is radical 3 over 2. Okay, and you end up with radical 2 minus radical 6 over 4. Okay. In fact, real quick, it's going to be negative. I forgot this is negative down here. I'm glad I caught that negative down there. Negative radical 2 minus radical 6 over 4. Good catch on that. All right. And that is going to be, if you want the decimal answer, negative 0.9659. And if you want to check the calculator and pump in the cosine of 165, you'll get the same answer, which will give you comfort. All right, now a tangent one. A tangent one, we're doing 1F now. All righty. So for 1F, tangent of negative 195, and I'll write that right here, that's going to be the tangent of negative 45 minus 150. That was my thinking on that. Okay, I'm going to do a difference formula because I'm going to do minus positive 150. Okay, so I'm going to draw these out real quick. There's your negative 45 is right here. So I know the tangent is negative 1 down there. Okay, and then for 150, 150 is a 30-degree reference angle. Okay, 150 is a 30-degree reference angle. And that's going to be radical 3 over 3, and it's negative because from the second quadrant. So those are the key numbers that I need. -1 and negative radical 3 over 3. Those are both the tangents. And I'm going to label A and B. Here's A, here's B. No problem. And I'll keep going in red on this one, I think. All right, using that formula right here where the arrow is, we got tangent of A. We know that's -1, okay? Minus the tangent of B, which is radical 3 over 3 negative. So to keep going, I got what I have is I'm going to go -3 over 3. That's 1. And the two negatives make a positive, radical 3 over 3. So I'm going to be able to combine that to -3 plus radical 3 over 3. So I worked that all out, okay? Back up here, divided by, and here's the second part right here, divided by 1 plus tangent of A, which is -1, times the tangent of B, which is negative radical 3 over 3. Okay? And that comes out 1 plus radical 3 over 3. And again, I'm going to change this to 3 over 3. So we got that divided by 3 plus radical 3 over 3. I'll continue right here. I'll change colors for you just so you can see it a little bit better. I'll go to some orange or something, whatever this is. -3 plus radical 3 over 3 times, I'm going to turn this upside down, 3 plus radical 3. This cancels. And you end up with -3 plus radical 3 over 3 plus radical 3. And we're going to stop there. We're not going to take the radical out of the denominator. We're going to leave it right there. And in case you're wondering what that answer is, and that just takes forever to do that. That answer is -0.2679. If you wanted to check both of them, both the tangent of -195 and the radical there. Okay, so that's the first 6. Okay, so now we're going to do 1G, and 1G involves radians. Okay, so we're going to do a pretty simple, if you remember, we're going to go from radians to degrees. And to do that, we're going to multiply by 180 over pi. Okay, again, I'm doing 1G. And that is going to be -75 degrees. Okay, so -75 degrees can be done several ways, but the way I'm going to do it is -45 degrees minus 30 degrees. Okay, so we're going to be using the difference formula for sine, which is right up here. Okay, so I'm going to put this whole thing right there. Okay, so what we've got is we're going to do we got A and B, no problem. Here's A, here's B. So A, we need the sine of 45 degrees, and if you recall, -45 degrees is sine of that. That's going to be negative radical 2 over 2. Okay, going to multiply by that by the cosine of B, and the cosine of B 30 degrees. Remember, this is minus 30 degrees, so minus positive 30 degrees. Okay, and then the cosine of that is radical 3 over 2. Okay, minus the cosine of A, which is again radical 2 over 2 on a 45. Okay, times the sine of b, and the sine of b, whoops, will be 1/2. Okay, so it's going to be negative radical 6 minus radical 2 over 4. Okay, and that is the same. Here's the decimal answer, negative 0.9659. Again, a good way to do this is just throw in the sine of negative 75 degrees and see if you get that decimal, and then see if it comes out when you do the calculations of this. That's a great way to check your answer. Okay, so that's 1G. 1H coming next. 1H, 7 pi over 12, and if you multiply that by 180 over pi, okay, you're going to get, let me do this real quick in my calculator. I did not do it ahead of time. So 180 divided by 12 times 7, that ends up being 105 degrees. Okay, and then 105 degrees is 60 plus 45 degrees. So 60 and a 45. All right, no problem. So let's draw a quick 60-degree angle right here. Okay, here's a 60. 1/2 radical 3 over 2. Let's draw a quick 45-degree one, okay? Radical 2 over 2, radical 2 over 2, no problem. And then we got a positive one, it's a cosine one, so it's right here. I'm going to circle that up above there. Okay, so let me change pen colors real quick. This is A, this is B, and here we go. So the cosine of A is the x value, that's 1/2, times the cosine of B, which is radical 2 over 2, minus the sine of A, and the sine of A is radical 3 over 2. Okay, radical 3 over 2 times the sine of B, which is radical 2 over 2. So that comes out radical 2 minus radical 6 over 4. Again, very familiar numbers there. And if you want the decimal on that, it's negative 0.2588. Again, you can check that with just throwing in the cosine of 105 degrees and see if you got the same answer. That's how the easiest way. Do 1I, tangent of pi over 12, which is 15 degrees, okay? And that's going to be a 60 minus 45. This is A, this is B, okay? And by the way, you probably already know these. The tangent of 60 is radical 3. The tangent at 45 is 1. And we're going to be using the difference formula, which is right there. So tangent of A, radical 3, minus the tangent of B, which is 1, divided by 1 plus the tangent of A, which is radical 3, and times the tangent of B, which is 1. So we have radical 3 minus 1 divided by 1 plus radical 3. You know, I think on this case, these aren't going to cancel out, so I'm just going to go to this. This is fine. It's, you know, it's just two schools of thought. Do you go ahead and use the conjugate to get rid of the radical, or just leave it? I think we can just leave it. That's good enough. There's debate on that. So you end up with, if you want the decimal answer, it's 0.2679. Okay. If you want to check that with just pumping that in your calculator and check this to see if it works out, that'd be great. Okay. Now we're going to go backwards for the last few here. So let me slide this up a little bit. Okay. Write each as an expression in a single fraction. All right, we got cosine, cosine, sine, sine. Okay. What is cosine, cosine plus sine, sine? Cosine, cosine plus sine, sine. Let's look up here. Cosine, cosine plus sine, sine should be the difference of cosines. Okay, right there. Should be this right here. Again, I'll circle that. Again, on your notes, you'll be able to see that pretty easily right there. Cosine, cosine plus sine, sine. All right, so I'm simply going to add those two together real quick. Okay, so let me clear that. Slide down. And you end up with, oops, sorry about that. You end up with, if you're looking at your sheet there, you end up with cosine 5x minus 2x is all you got. No problem. So it's a cosine of 3x. Just going backwards. These are actually pretty easy. You could argue these should be at the front of the lesson because they're pretty simple. Okay, clear that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this even smaller for us. See if I can get it all in at once. Maybe I can. Yeah, I think I got it. Okay, good. Oops. Okay, perfect. All right, next one is going to be sine cosine plus cosine sine. Sine cosine plus cosine sine. Okay, that is this. That is up here. That is the sine of a plus b. Okay, that's the sine of a plus b. So I'm just going to go the sine of 9x plus 3x. Okay, and that equals the sine of 12x. No problem. All right. The last one is tangent. We have a minus on top and then a plus on the bottom. Well, that is going to be tangent of a minus b. Okay, so I'm going to go the tangent of 78 minus 11, which is 67 degrees. Okay, so the tan of 67. Okay. All right, that is the end of page 1, just page 1 of section 5.2. And I'm going to stop there. I will do page 2 of 5.2 in the next video. All right, terrific.